Well, hello, everybody. This is Tim Green with Rattle Magazine, and this is your Rattlecast for Tuesday, November 25th, episode number 19. We're a few days out from Thanksgiving, and I hope you all have a great Thanksgiving coming up. There's a big snowstorm blowing in, so I'm glad we could get this Rattlecast done before that does. We're going to get 2 to 3 feet of snow up here in the mountains. So I hope everybody stays safe and warm this Thanksgiving and enjoy some time with your family. Of course, for those overseas, it's not Thanksgiving, but hope you have a great week too. So today we have a great episode as always, but especially a good one today. It's one of my all-time favorite poets, and Bob Hicok. It's my time. It's a quarter to the hour, so if you are watching archive, you can skip forward about 15 minutes, and Bob Hicok will be on. I'll give him a call over Skype. But in the meantime, this is the pre-show where we kick back and relax and get on some comfortable pants. You can get your drink, whatever beverage of your choice you'd like to consume. Find a comfortable chair, and we'll do some pre-recorded poems. We'll do some from Rattle. I think we'll start to mix in some open mic here in the pre-show too. And, it's Thanksgiving coming up, and I was looking through Thanksgiving poems to maybe read on the pre-show, but Thanksgiving poems tend to be dark. I think poets tend to write about problems. I think poetry is a sort of subconscious and emotional means of problem solving, and so if you don't have a problem, it's hard to write sometimes. And so there aren't a lot of Thanksgiving poems that are positive. We have like Craig Santos Perez's Thanksgiving the Anthropocene. We have Michael Marks, The First Thanksgiving Exactly. But Bob Hicok writes a little bit in his newest book about the Anthropocene. And last week we talked about the disappearance of animals and those kind of problems too. I don't want to get so negative. So I thought instead of doing some Thanksgiving poems, this is the time of year we do our pushcart nominations. And I thought we would play a few pushcart poems on the pre-show. So here, this first one is the only pushcart nomination from Poets Respond this year. And it is by Amy Schmidt. And I don't really know anything about Amy Schmidt other than she lives in the Upper Peninsula of Minnesota in a tiny, tiny town. I think I looked it up to see where it was, and it was less than 100 people live there. And it's kind of fitting then that this is a tiny poem, but this was written in memory of Mary Oliver when she died in January. And it's a beautiful, tiny little poem, and let's go to that. So this is Abundance by Amy Schmidt, and it's from January 20th, 2019.
Abundance. It's impossible to be lonely when zesting an orange. Scrape the soft rind once, and the whole room fills with fruit. Look around. You have more than enough. Always have. You just didn't notice until now.
Once again, that was Amy Schmidt reading Abundance from Poets Respond last January in memory of Mary Oliver. And so congratulations to Amy Schmidt for the Pushcart Prize there. I just thought it was one of those, when I look back at the Pushcart Prize possibilities, I just sort of flip through the different indexes we have and try to find the one that I remember the most, and the poems that stand out as having had a big response and stand out in my memory. Like there are a lot of poems that I read, and just looking at the title, I could sort of recite and images pop into my head. And that's the kind of poem that we try to nominate for the Pushcart Prize. Here's another one that we nominated for the Pushcart Prize. This is John Philip Johnson's The Book of Fly. And we just thought this was such a creative poem. John Philip Johnson, he lives in Lincoln, Nebraska, and he turns his poems into comic books. So his most recent book is actually called The Book of Fly. And you can check those out by going to johnphillipsjohnson.com. And he has at least 2 comic books full of poems, which are pretty incredible. And here he is reading The Book of Fly.
The Book of Fly for Mike Allen. Verse 1, Chapter 1. Feeding on the living is good, but feeding on the dead is better. 1:2. Nestle your offspring in the rancid. 1:3. The air is heavy, let it work for you, but fly only until you find beauty. 1-4. Shit is beautiful. 1-5. Rub your hands together before you eat. 1-6. If you land on the wrist that holds the swatter, consider yourself lucky, not clever. 1-7. Remain humble if you think of anything. 1-8. You only have a few days. Stay simple. 1-9. Breed when you are able. 2-1. And when you are licked by the frog's tongue, or swallowed by a songbird, or felled in a cloud of nerve gas, and lie twitching, unconcerned, 2-2. Know that it is the honor of a fly. It is its purpose to die.
And that was John Philip Johnson from Rattle number 63, last spring's issue, with his poem, The Book of Fly. And just such a creative way to build some actual philosophy out of the life of a fly. It sort of works as a religious scripture, I think. Let's see, we have 8 minutes. Let's do another one. This is, actually, I was going to jump and throw in an open mic poem here. And let's do that, because I don't want to limit the open mic to the very end. So this first open mic poet is Florence Jacquemin-Veber from Paris, France. And she writes in French and English, mostly poems, but also short stories. She won the first prize in the Poetry Award at the Journée des Écritures de Cluny, I don't speak French, in 2018. And 2 of her poems will be published in the Flammes Vives 2019 anthology. And here, let's see. Here is a open mic poem by Florence Jacquemin-Veber.
Hello, this is Florence Jacquemin-Veber from Paris. I'm going to read Mist River, a poem that I wrote about a year ago and that has been published in Crossways Literary Magazine online. And there we go. Mist River. I miss the river and its desert shores, where I can linger, take care of my sores. A pale sun above my head, morning bird's sweet noise. Not knowing which way to tread, I let my mood flow with poise. Deep breath, solar feeling, the day is mine, so far, so slow. I enjoy life around, birds bickering in the soft wind and the fish's frenzied dance below. Worries and grief dissolve. Slowly I feel I can evolve to a serene mood, nested in this solitude. Best is to taste the river with the tip of the toe lightly. It can cool any fever and turn gloom into glee. Here I now sit in a quiet place on soft sands, half hidden from the shore, yet with a view to embrace, to let my thoughts wander towards the long-gone loved ones. I retrace, mind talking with the dead, drowned in an elemental scenery, to soothe, to live, to mend, to offload the burden and the misery. I miss the river, always, as my father's there, always, in the everlasting current of our beloved river, my sweet spiritual current.
Once again, that was an early open mic. That was Florence Jacquemin-Veber from Paris, France, reading her poem Mist River. I thought we'd throw in an open mic poem at the beginning of each episode too, just to keep it sort of mixed up. And now let's do one more poem before we start. Get these poetry gears flowing. This is another Pushcart Prize nominee. This is Razak Malik Gabolahan, and he lives in Nigeria. He's from issue number 65. This is his poem, What My Children Remember. And here it comes.
What my children remember. The sight of helicopters circling the sky on mornings when the sky broke into shrapnel, falling on our roofs as we quivered out of the dread of being dead, as we crouched behind the doors, the air emitting smoke, the cadence of bullets quieting the sound of the world, leaving us to stare deep into the residues of blasted things, into the dreams turned to embers, to things that slipped off our fingers as we held them like a baby, thinking we could revive some things out of everything we toiled for years under the sun, far away from our families. My children remember the mornings after houses became ruins, the sadness on the faces of those who managed to bury their beloveds after the blast, those who resorted to singing a threnody every night for years, those who dressed their hearts in grief as war buried their dreams. My children remember their schools left as wreckage, the streets where they walked before the blast becoming silent alleys, bereft of the usual talks of people walking home on night when the streetlights beamed steadily, illuminating the world. My children remember the emptiness of waiting behind when home was a grenade raining everything, when home was a book full of the names of the dead, the dying, the ones lost to blast, the ones leaving home for exile.
And that was, once again, that was Razak Malik Gobalahan. You can find him on Twitter at Razak Malik. That's RASAQMALIK. And he was the third of our 6 Pushcart Prize nominees. I think we'll play the other 3 poems next week. Keep it a surprise a little bit. I haven't told anybody what the Pushcart Prize nominees were this year. I just chose them this afternoon, reading through all of the poems we published this year. Some great poems throughout 2019. So let's see. Bob Hicok is going to be on in 2 minutes. And so I should say Rattle is a publication of the Rattle Foundation, a 501c3 nonprofit working to promote the practice of poetry. We've been in continuous publication since 1995, and we're completely independent and unaffiliated with any other organization. If you'd like to call in on the open mic, let me see. You can call 818-850-7727. We are working on that now. We haven't had anybody use this phone number yet. It's pretty new. But if you want to Skype in, which is even better because then we can see your face, the Skype address is Rattle Poetry. So that'll be after Bob Hicok. In about an hour, we'll be doing open mics. And if you do call in instead of using Skype, it'd be nice to have something to put on screen. So hopefully you can read a poem that's been published online and tell me where to find it on the internet, and I will put it up that way. But for now, I am going to throw up some music in the splash screen and give Bob Hicok a call, and we'll be back in just a minute. Thanks so much for joining us. So we're back, and I have Bob Hicok on the line. Bob Hicok, I have to say, is one of my original favorite poets. Back when I was an undergraduate taking poetry as an elective, we had The Legend of Light assigned in our class. And then I picked up Animal Soul too, which had been out at that time. And he was one of the poets who made me fall in love with poetry. Bob Hicok is the author of 9 books so far. We're going to be reading from his 10th today, Red Rover, which is not out yet, so it's kind of a preview of this book. We're really excited for that. He's won pretty much every award you could win, Guggenheim Fellowships and NEA stuff and all that jazz. And let's just meet Bob and get into the poetry. Let me pull him in. Bob Hicok, hello. Everybody can see you and hear you. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm excellent. And you're calling from for your office at Virginia Tech, right?
Yes.
Yeah, great. And so do you want to start us out with a poem to get it flowing?
Sure.
What do you want to start with?
It's called Plans for the Day.
Okay.
Pancakes, the men's final at Wimbledon, carrying around the phrase, "Where I go, I cannot follow," as a tryout epitaph. Looking at, probably working on the retaining wall above the culvert under the drive that was just replaced. Wondering 100 times if our cat is getting better or dying less obviously. Taking the mountains for granted, taking the mountains for granite, hating puns, loving the womb one word is of another. Thinking in odd moments of money, while brushing the teeth of our shark, while watching a cardinal peck at its reflection in a window. Do we have enough to retire and look at koi ponds as indulgences of people who need better hobbies? Do we give enough to people in need? Who is not a people in need? Beginning a letter to America. Dear richest country in the history of ever, please share. Struggling for the next sentence. Share everything, share now. Thinking of barn raisings, what our aversion to collective effort is on a larger scale. Remembering all the times I saw WPA on sidewalks in Ann Arbor and Detroit and New York and felt warm in whatever part of me loves people working together to give others a stable path forward as they make their way into the shine and tumult. Getting older. I will get older today. Add a B bolder today. Add a C colder today. Add a moon visible in the afternoon. A ghost moon of the blazing moon to come. And maybe pizza. And maybe looking at Eve in the garden at dusk. Forgetting everything but having hands amid the handless flowers that are nonetheless 5-petaled in how they reach for the sun. Go figure. Go home. Kiss your doorbell. Your thermos from childhood. Your fear of the dark. Kiss everything. Some small percentage of dust will kiss you back.
Thanks so much, Bob. And that was Plans for the Day from your new book, Red Rover. Do you want to kind of describe the themes of your new book? And when is it going to be coming out? Do you know yet?
I don't. I have a book coming out next year. Mm-hmm. So this one will come out sometime after that.
Oh, really? So this is your 11th book, actually.
Yeah, I think. And no, I don't want to talk about the themes. I don't think too much about themes. Mm-hmm. There are some things that come up a fair number of times, particularly climate change for some reason. Well,
yeah.
Not for some reason, I guess for obvious reasons. Mm-hmm. But otherwise, it's just poems that I felt like putting together. Mm-hmm.
That kind of brings up a question I always wanted to ask you. Usually I don't care too much about the writing process, but for you, it's an exception because it's always felt to me like there's no sort of difference between books. It's sort of like there's a continuous poem running through your head, and you sort of tap into that vein sometimes, and make a poem. And it's sort of amazing that there's this voice that's consistent through and so creative and making all these leaps. So how do you confront, writing projects? Like, how does it work? Like, what's your writing process like?
My writing process consists of getting up, making coffee, going upstairs and writing. Mm-hmm. it is something that I do it every day. I basically finish a poem every day. Most of them get thrown out, thankfully.
Yeah.
But it is something that happens pretty much when I put myself in a particular chair at a particular time of day. And otherwise, I don't really think about it.
And do you revise? Because it feels to me like a blurb on your most recent book that's out is Hold, and a blurb said that somebody would like to hook you up into an MRI machine while you're writing and see what's going on in your brain. And it just feels to me the consistency of the creativity makes it feel like your brain is some kind of special brain. Like that's the sense I get too. But do the poems come out on their own? Like, is it a spontaneous process, or do you go back and revise them? Because you said you write a new poem every day.
For the most part, I've come to think of poetry the way I go about it, and there's a group of people who I think go about it this way, as performative. I do revise, but a lot of the work, the way it goes out into the world is the way it came into the world. A lot of the poems have not been changed. And I like that. It suits my personality.
Yeah.
I think a lot of what I'm trying to do is capture, in addition to whatever I happen to write about, what I think I'm really interested in is my mind in those moments. I really want a record of my mind at a particular point in time. Having said that, of late, there's a very different kind of poem I found myself writing that has required a completely different approach, a lot of revision. And it's been interesting to do that because it's a different experience for me.
What's different about those poems, like in the style or the content?
Much shorter, much more lyric, much more driven by compression, as you would expect from shorter, more lyric poems. And it's interesting because the ones I'm working on now are, I think, an offshoot of the poems that will be in my next book, which are also much shorter, much more lyric, but they happened really quickly. And I think there was something about writing shorter, more compressed poems that really interested me. But I didn't have, the next book has a kind of unifying theme. It very loosely tells the story of a couple. The stuff I'm doing now doesn't have that.
Yeah.
And I think because it doesn't have the things, that connective tissue, the poems just happen much more slowly. And that's, again, it's been an unexpected arrival, but I've enjoyed it.
Interesting. People can ask questions on the chat. And David Cook asked something that kind of relates. He says, do you feel there are a cast of characters and voices that inhabit certain poems or collections?
No, not a cast of character or voices. My poems really are driven by the thing that's on my mind when I sit down to write. So the unity that you spoke of, I think, is substantially driven by that. We tend to come back to the same things, whether we write poems or not. We tend to be driven by the same concerns, the same worries, the same joys. And absolutely, that's reflected in my work. It's not so much a sense of character or a cast of characters. It's my head, for better or worse. And the person who wants to put me in the MRI machine, I think, just wants to torture me and make me listen to that banging.
Have you ever done an MRI before?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
They're delightful machines.
Yeah. Do you have you written any poems about an MRI?
No.
No. Well, you
Oddly,
should.
I've written many poems in an MRI machine, though.
Oh, really?
No.
Okay. Well, you want to get back to a few poems?
Sure.
Okay.
The description I carry in my wallet in case Eve goes missing and I go mute. Too peaceful to chew ice, too big for her bed and the dream of her dollhouse, too soft for a career in sandpaper, too angry with her mother to curtsy to the Champs-Elysees, too kind to tell the sky it can be a real bastard, too wet to be the out-of-body experience of rain, too expansive to be the thread to anyone's needle, too tired to fold napkins into swans, swans into ballerinas, ballerinas into eating disorders, too shy to be a forest fire, too introverted to be an orchid, too sad about her grandmother's death to trim a single branch from a single tree, even a dead branch, even a branch that has fallen, that has evolved to a stick, too honest to be the best friend of a mirage, gentle to play the tambourine, to make it as the executive producer of Star Search, to go out for drinks with a hostile takeover, too sad about her grandmother's death to die herself in case the dead aren't allowed to miss the dead, too much like air not to be breath, too green not to be spring, too mortal to be one of the floating women of Chagall, and too mortal not to be the appetite of his colors for the sun, too elsewhere when she is gone, too gone when I blink, too much of a garden for me to carry in my not enough pockets, hands, mouths.
Do you want to read maybe two more, and then we'll answer a couple more questions?
Sure.
Okay.
More than whispers, less than rumors. The river is high. I'd love to smoke pot with the river. I'd love it if rain sat at my table and told me what it's like to lick Edith Piaf's grave. I go along thinking I'm separate from trash day and the weird hairdo my cat wakes up with, but I am of the avalanche as much as I am its tambourine. The river is crashing against my sleep like it took applause apart and put it back together as a riot of wet mouths adoring my ears, is over my head when it explains string theory and affection to me, when it tells me to be the code breaker, not the code. What does that mean? Why does lyric poetry exist? When will water open its mouth and tell us how to be clouds, how to rise and morph and die and flourish and be reborn all at the same time, all without caring if we have food in our teeth or teeth in our eyes or hair in our soup or a piano in our pockets? Just play the damn tune. The river is bipolar but has flushed its meds. I'm dead, but someone has to finish all the cheese in the fridge. We're a failed species if suction cups are important, if intelligence isn't graded on a curve. But if desperation counts, if thunderstorms are the noise in our heads given a hall pass and rivers swell because orchestras aren't always there when we need them, well then, I still don't know a thing. You were right. It is weird sort of having we're having a conversation,
Yeah.
but I can't, I see the little image of you looking to your left.
We're gonna upgrade our equipment in maybe January or February, so we can have. Right now, there's already the problem is there's already like video going. There's three cameras for me, and then my computer's handling so much it's already using 45% of the CPU. So I need to upgrade my computer is what I need to do.
Does that say something about you that there are three cameras on you too?
Well, only one is on me, but but mostly it's on poetry. So that's the way to go. Let's see. Let me ask another thing. The one thing I have maybe noticed, and I wonder if you agree or you might completely disagree, but I feel like your work's gotten a little more political over the years. And you mentioned climate change, and you've written a lot of poems about the mass shooting problem that we have here in this country. Do you think that's a turn that you've taken? And the other thing I was wondering is that if so, do you think that it has to do with the Virginia Tech shooting, which we interviewed you in Rattle number 28, which was the spring of 2007. So it was just a few weeks before that, I think, if I have the date right. I forgot to relook it up. But do you think you've taken more of a political turn because of that? Has that had an effect on you? Or do you think you haven't taken a political turn? What do you think about that?
Excuse me. I think I've taken a political turn in the sense that I've included in some books more poems that are political or overtly political. It's always been a part of my work. I think particularly focusing on economic issues. My family, my immediate family, particularly on my father's side, there was a huge economic jump. I come from farmers, factory workers, people who've not had much. And I think, not to get Lamarckian and say that there's some genetic memory of that, but there is I feel that. Mm-hmm. And I've always been drawn to thinking about, writing about people in need. I believe what's gone on is with certain books, I've just been more inclined to include more of that work. The proportion has changed in some books. I've been more aggressive in that regard. I've never wondered if the Virginia Tech shootings kind of opened me up more to that. I don't think they did. Guns, as long as I can remember, they've shown up in my work, a concern about their proliferation. I regret sometimes to a significant degree the extent to which I'll include political work, because I think it's among the hardest stuff to do. Mm-hmm. And in retrospect, I question those poems more than others. It's not their intent. It's not what they're going after. I find it's difficult to step away from the content sufficiently. Looking over this book, today I found myself thinking, well, I'll cut down on the number of poems about climate change. I'm just not as convinced by them. And yet I really naturally find myself writing about that and about political issues generally.
Yeah, well, I have to say first, your poem "In the Loop," after that shooting, was one of the reasons we started the Poets Respond series, where we publish political poems. I remember reading that in Poetry around 2010 or whenever that came out, and thinking it would be really great to get poetry into the sort of the public discussion, and have stuff be timely enough. Like imagine if that poem had been able to be written right then and published right then. And that's why we do our Poets Respond series. There were a few poems there that came like that, but yours was a main one. But what do you think? You mentioned that it's hard to write political poems, and I really agree. It's hard to, we get politics has really taken over the news cycle completely over the last,
really?
Few years. Yeah, really, it has.
I've missed this.
It's almost like politics is all that exists, and it is really hard to write about political subjects because I think what you do, I always feel like you're sort of the purest poet I know. I don't want to flatter you too much, but I think of a poet as people who sort of explore the grist of the subconscious, And the problem with political stuff, it seems to me, is that you already know your political opinion, so it's so hard not to be didactic. And that's the
Yes.
problem with all the political poems we receive, or, the vast majority, is that they're not really exploring. They're trying to relate something. And in doing that, they really end up being sort of more propaganda for your ideology than poetry. So how do you deal with that when writing more political poems?
I think to a certain extent, the ones that I end up believing in, they're made in a way that addresses what you're talking about. And I really like what you said. To me, I mean, there's this one of many cliched things we'll say about poems, but that people will say generally about art. In the making of it, if you don't surprise yourself, it's probably not worth a damn. There should be moments, hopefully a lot of moments, where you're putting down something that you could not have anticipated. You had no idea that was going to show up. And I think with politics, if you think of where many of us are right now, Trump bad. If that's the extent of what you want to say, you probably knew that going into the poem. There has to be this sense of not just discovery, but furtherance of your existence, an extension of your life and mind through the act of writing. A poem should actually make you a larger person, and that you see your mind reflected back, and you're able to have a conversation with yourself in a way that you wouldn't probably if you're just walking around the house going to get new tires. So I think the ones that work best for me, I have not sat down intending to write political poems. I think that's one of the advantages I have. It's inherent to my approach that I almost never know what I'm going to write about. I just know I really want to write. So I go wherever the first few sentences take me. So if they go in a political direction, so be it. It's not something that I had sort of teed up in advance. So there's a greater chance that I'll be surprised by what I do. But having said that, I think it's the nature of politics. That you are more likely to encounter within yourself stuff that is kind of rehearsed, that you're well aware of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's get back to a few poems. I'm tempted to just ask you questions all night, but we we should read poems too. So what are you going to read next?
Well, just so happens this is one of the climate change poems. On the Rocks, a Song of Climate Change. I hate ice and whiskey on my car, my nipples. Ice is water that's too good to look me in the eyes. Ice leads to hockey, and hockey leads to Canadians with gap-toothed smiles. What do we say of the dead? Cold as ice. But ice doesn't deserve to be killed. First of all, it's fairly reclusive, mostly hangs out at the poles. Without ice, there'd be no polar bears, Arctic terns, penguins. Watching penguins swim and not get eaten by orcas makes me happy. Watching orcas eat penguins make me believe the world is a self-regulating system and I should mind my own business. Was a self-regulating system and we did not mind our own business. What is our business? What do we add to the endeavor? Don't say cathedrals, Beethoven, 2-for-1 sales on diapers and Colt 45s. Do say carbon dioxide, heat, ignorance of our effect on whales, monarchs, winter. What if the world is a grape and we are a bruise? What if we're being given what we want most of all, we who are the memory singers, nostalgia machines? What if elegy is our calling and we need death to feed our desire to lament how good things were before cars, Jiffy Pop, fake tits, Miracle Grow, us? We tell one story, Eden. Once upon a time, things were better. Once upon a time, our minds were simple and we were happy. Once upon a time, human nature wasn't what it really is, and that's all it took to live at ease in the garden, to not be us. If your nature's your danger, your gist a fist, your essence a pestilence, what do you do to not be you? Kill yourself or evolve. Sorry, I meant to write an ode, a ditty about something wild and pretty. That's how it is with us. We almost always mean well. To give strangers a ride, eat more vegetables, vacuum the house, not break the world. To be kind and that fabled, mythic thing, wise.
Thanks, Bob. And that was On the Rocks, a song of climate change. Do you want to do another one?
Sure. This is called Remedy. In deciding what I am, I've ruled out cat, vulture, shoe, a sadist who tortures people to death in a Syrian hospital, a president who separates families at the border, a handful of purple irises at the beginning of the path to heaven. Is there memory in the shade of a tree of a lynching 50 years ago when I was 9? And do I love that tree? Love the sinner, not the sin? Forgive the electricity, not the singeing of genitals. The more I know about human nature, the more I plan to be tall grass in a field. Until then, I tell my wife I love her in Toronto and Blacksburg and bed, in pajamas and blue jeans and song, in theory and fact and dream. I will not gouge a man's eye out, I promise, yet the eye is out, the man is dead, and the geese I'm listening to have no idea that we're as wild as the coyotes that would tear them apart. If given a choice, I'd not choose to be human. If given a choice how to be human, I'd say like a glass of water. While I have no answers to the questions I don't know how to ask, I can love my wife in Detroit, in general, in detail, in vain, in spite, in depth, in the shallow light of the moon, in contrast to hating myself, in sympathy and in stealth, in time as a ghost and right now as a poet, wondering if surgeons, during a transplant, tell the shivering and recycled heart it is loved. I assume so, but I've never asked a heart on its second time around, were you christened? Were you blessed? Are you worth all this trouble?
And that was Bob's poem Remedy. And these are all coming out from his book Red Rover, Red Rover. Do you want to read one more and then we'll talk a little more, Bob?
Sure.
Okay.
Genuflection, a song of climate change. If a forest falls and no one is there to catch it, if there is a last tree, last leaf, if clear cutting lacks clarity, if I am an accessory to murder, if a conditional sentence never finishes combing its hair, if a glacier dies in Alaska, if a glacier is killed in Iceland and buried at sea, if I like breathing, if I like coral, if I like liking the blue earth, if forests had lawyers, if trees were CEOs, if CEOs were angels, if an angel falls from heaven, comes to dinner, opens her chest, opens his mouth and stars pour out, if heaven rises, if heaven prizes canopy, understory, overgrowth, if appetite, if covet, if capitalism is suicide by comfort, if shrug, if will you look at the time, if I abet extinction, if I am an accomplice to poof, if trees are green engines out of every heart and lung, if clear cutting is our brains proving they are knock-knock jokes, if who's there, if too late, if a tree is planted, if a forest is guarded by the Secret Service, if another tree is planted, if a forest stars in the next superhero movie, and the sequel and the prequel and ta-da, if breathe, if you, if Eden, if grace, if the apple is the word apple, if a species falls and no one is there to notice, it is us. If I take a knee, if I die before I pray to wake, if I pray we wake before we die.
Thanks, Bobbitt. That was a genuflection, a song of climate change. On the stream here, Anne-Marie Champagne says, "Oh shucks, she realized this book is coming out 2 years from now or something like that." She says she's going to be in a chronic state of longing until the new book comes out. Can you talk a little bit about just you're one of the most interesting poets I know, in that you hate promoting your own work as much as I hate promoting my own work. You didn't want to. You didn't want to read from your book that's just came out. You didn't want to read the book that's forthcoming. You wanted to read from the book that's forthcoming in 2 years.
Yes.
And you hate AWP as much as I do. When we interviewed you, you didn't want to look at the interview before we published it. So talk a little bit about that. Like, why do you feel so distanced from any kind of concept of self-promotion?
Part of it is just being a shy person. I have no interest in me being out and about. I want people to read my poems. I want people to get something out of my poems, like my poems, love my poems, whatever my poems. That it's not that. But the me part of it is just not something I'm interested in. And I find it odd to try to do anything more than just write the poems and get them out there. I don't want to ask people to like my poems, read my poems. That seems just bad form. And again, the two together, if I was more comfortable in front of people, maybe I wouldn't feel that way to the extent I do. But the combination is just deadly in terms of publicity. I am not made to do this. I got nervous, even though I'm sitting in my office alone. I got nervous thinking about doing this. I'm bugged by the little image of me that's up in the corner. It's not where my energy really, interest or energy lies. I love writing. That part of this I absolutely adore.
Well, you seem to be a testament to how much self-promotion is unnecessary, I mean, there's the idea that if you're not an extrovert who likes going to events, that you'll have no way of getting forward in the literary world. Do you think, I can't imagine that it's held you back at all, because you're one of the most well-known, most loved poets around. Do you think that it's held you back at all in any way? Or do you think that just writing itself poems that people enjoy is enough?
I don't know. And I don't want to lie. There've been periods where I've done readings, and some periods, quite a few. I never took to it. I've basically stopped doing that, and stopping has brought me enormous pleasure. I don't know that I would recommend it, though. I don't know. This is tricky. There's so many people doing this, so many talented people doing this. And depending on one's ambitions, most of the people, certainly most students that I've worked with, graduate students, they want this life. To get that, you need to publish books, and the books have to be noticed. By and large, you don't end up with one of these jobs if that's not the case. And you're out there with many, many, many people trying to do the same. Having said that, I think if it doesn't suit someone, the bang for the buck, I've never really seen proof that it makes a difference. I think what it allows people to do, being out there, trying to do readings, doing readings, trying to get interviews, be interviewed, all of the things we do. I think it can make someone believe they've done all that they can. And that can plague us. One of the hardest things for us, I think, is to look back and feel we didn't try hard enough.
Yeah. Let me ask you, do you have a luck story? Because I've met a lot of poets who have a luck story where their career sort of took off because of some lucky thing. I'm thinking in particular, there are a bunch of examples, but one is Ted Kooser. When we interviewed him, he said, if I remember the story right, that at a book festival, the buyer for Barnes & Noble just happened to pick up a copy of Delight in Shadows because she was like late for someone to pick her up, I think is the story. You have to look back. That's issue number 32 or something like that. But and so because she picked that book up and read a poem and she liked it, so she read another poem, so she bought it, took it with her, and decided to she read the whole thing because she liked the one poem she happened to read that she happened to pick up, and then she ended up putting it sort of in the front shelf of the Barnes & Noble as one of like the highlighted poetry things, and then it became the Pulitzer Prize winning book or whatever it was that year, and that's when he became poet laureate. But until then, he was sort of a poet like anybody else who publishes really great books that people like but doesn't have a lot of recognition. Do you have any stories like that, or was there sort of a? Because originally, people maybe don't know, but you were for 20 years or so, you were a tool and die maker for an auto. You had your own auto die making business, right? Did you have any sort of lucky sort of thing that happened, or did you just sort of have a trajectory and followed it?
I would say that I have been lucky many times over in a much smaller scale. There's no event like that for me. And I did not, I think because of the way I came to the public side of this, I also didn't have what I think a fair number of people have, a mentor or someone, a poet, an older poet who notices them and kind of puts them on the map, selects a book and champions it, selects a book for a prize, champions it, that kind of thing. But I feel tremendously lucky. Just the string of things that have gone on for me. To me, luck has so much to do with this. I've just been lucky many times over in this smaller, non-Barnes & Noble way.
And let me ask one more,
which is really boring.
No. That's just interesting to hear. So another question. This is from David Cook too. So he's kind of on a roll. This ties into what we were talking about in this little segment. So he says you've been a champion of solitude and doing your own thinking and writing for your own mind. Do you consider any of your poems especially inappropriate for particular people?
I consider most of my poems inappropriate for most people. I'm assuming by that he means, are there poems that I don't want certain people to see? And absolutely. One of my books is titled Sex and Love and I really don't like the thought of my parents looking at anything in that book. And fortunately, they're proud of me, but they don't really look too closely at the poems. There are poems I would not publish while some people are alive. It would seem needlessly cruel, what I have to say in those poems. But for the most part, if I write it and I believe in it, I don't think of keeping poems away from certain people. Mm-hmm. It's interesting to answer a question when you can't ask the person who asked it questions about the question to get a better sense of what
Yeah.
they meant.
Well, I think that's what you meant. Like, do you hold back? I think that was the sort of, to me, that was the sense of the question. Like, are there any poems you don't publish? Are there poems that you like love, but you've never published because you don't want to, bother anybody? It's interesting because I have a whole book that I haven't published. I'm waiting for somebody to die. So,
And it's probably, you probably can't say
I'm
who
not
that
going to say anything about
person
it
is.
now, but
Yeah.
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it's not done, but
That's,
it's like a half finished manuscript that I know, at some point I'll publish, but not for a very long
yeah.
time. Do you have anything like
Yeah.
that you've held back because of that you
Yes.
think is worth publishing, but you haven't?
Yes. Yeah, there are a few that I'm in the same boat, just it's a much smaller scale.
Mm-hmm.
Does knowing that, has that changed how you've worked on that book?
I don't know. I guess there's no sense of a pressure to finish it. I guess that's why it's not
Right.
finished, because I know I can't publish it anyway, and I don't want to, for who knows how long. So so I just sort of sit on it and let it marinate and don't really worry about it much, which is kind of nice. But it's also, I have no like motivation, so I'm not working on it as much as I
Right.
should.
Right.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting if the person turns out to be you.
Yeah. Well, that would be.
I won't publish this book
until
until I'm dead.
Didn't
And I will do readings
yeah,
then.
yeah. Maybe I'll record the readings and then publish them after the fact. You could set up the YouTube to do it later, so I could just do the whole reading. Anyway, so I think you have 3 more poems you wanted to read. Do you want to finish up with that?
Sure.
Okay, great.
This is called Oh My Papa. Our fathers have formed a poetry workshop. They sit in a circle of disappointment over our fastballs and wives. We thought they didn't read our stuff. Whole anthologies of poems that begin, "My father never," or those that end, "and he was silent as a carp," or those with middles which, if you think of the right side as a sketch, look like a paunch of beer and worry. But secretly, with flashlights in the woods, they've read every word and noticed that our 9 happy poems have balloons and sex and giraffes inside, but not one dad waving hello from the top of a hill at dusk. Theirs is the revenge school of poetry, with titles like My Yellow Sheet Lad and Given Your Mother's Taste for Vodka, I'm Pretty Sure You're Not Mine. They're not trying to make the poems better so much as sharper or louder, more like a fish hook or electrocution. As a group, they overcome their individual senilities, their complete distaste for language, how cloying it is, how like tears it can be, and remember every mention of their long hours at the office or how tired they were when they came home, when they were dragged through the door by their shadows. I don't know why it's so hard to write a simple and kind poem to my father, who worked not like a dog. Dogs sleep most of the day in a ball of wanting to chase something, but like a man with 7 kids and a house to feed, whose absence was his presence, his present, the Cheerios, the PF Flyers, who taught me things about trees, that they're the most intricate version of standing up, who built a grandfather clock with me so I would know that time is a constructed thing, a passing, ticking fancy, a bomb that'll go off soon for him, for me. And I notice in our father's poems a reciprocal dwelling on absence, that they wonder why we disappeared as soon as we got our licenses, why we wanted the rocket cars, as if running away from them to kiss girls who looked like mirrors of our mothers wasn't fast enough. And it turns out they did start to say something, to form the words hey or stay. But we'd turned into a door full of sun, into the burning leave, and were gone before it came to them that it was all right to shout, that they should have knocked us down with a hand on our shoulders, that they too are mystified by the distance men need in their love. This This is called Meditation on Dust. No rain in months. Mistings, spritzings, but no rain. A trickle from our tap. Grass is brown, dust bowlish. I expect to see Tom Joad with his thumb out for Callie. Crickets have been breaking into our house for the shade and vodka. The era of clear-headed skies. One blue thought all day, one dark wish all night. I'm considering having an affair with a dowsing rod. I'm considering this a spiritual quest. Jesus having visions in the desert. A woman named Sally having visions in the desert. The guy who makes art out of tin cans the same. I've always wanted visions. Not always. Not when I was 2. Not when I was a trout in my mother. But now that I'm a trout on my own, I want a vision. My soul leaves me and becomes a book of matches in the hand of a bored and pyro-expressive kid behind a hotel in Rochester, Michigan, striking one of me after another and throwing me at the air, hoping to see existence catch and light up in a manner befitting the expectation that the body is a seed chalicing an inexhaustible shine. I also love the image of 2 people leaning together to light a cigarette in a hurricane, the little house of their hands sheltering the preposterous flicker as the storm plays its drum kit against their spines. Haven't you had Tuesdays like that, lovers like that, empty checkbooks like that? Isn't that the essence of waking up every day and putting on underwear and having coffee and knowing there's no manual or compass or street smart kid coming to whisper the ways of the world to your ear? If I don't die of actual thirst, I'll die of metaphorical thirst or a car crash or old age. See, life is full of options and death is full of nothing but the question of faith. Do you believe in more or less or more? In silence that is silence or silence that speaks? No rain in months, yet as the world unrivers, I hear flood. And this is called Worship. I stand under this tree missing Prince, that tree missing Robert Frank. The sun touching me between the 2 missings, doubling who I am, a man taking inventory and a shadow planning its escape. I love the sun. No half measures. No, sure, I can explode some hydrogen and send light 93 million miles to your face if you insist. Imagine the sun needing meth to leave the house. Imagine Marie Curie on stage singing Purple Rain. Imagine Prince discovering radium. Imagine you don't know what animates any living thing. I know a kid who wants to be the Muslim Robert Frank. I gave him an SLR for his neck. He gave me photos of a man wearing nothing but a trash bag and a woman kneeling beside an open driver's side door. I stand next to his face and think it a shrine. I miss Stephen Hawking and Jesus, my cousin Ruth, Roberto Clemente and Ali. In the days I am dead, I miss being in the service of atoms and the whispers that hold them together. I stand under this tree wanting to be everything, that tree trying to be the dot under an exclamation mark. I never met Eleanor Roosevelt or the 1940s, but miss them and would jump at the chance to jump for any reason. Like right now, crows are going apeshit, and I just said that, and isn't it amazing that you know what I mean? My wife will wake soon, and I'll tell her the story of clouds gone by, and she'll tell me if she dreamed, and if she dreamed, what she dreamed, and we'll go on being here as long as we can. Would you get in a plane with Amelia Earhart? Yes, you would. You're brave. You have breath, which means you have terror. Despite that, what will you do today? Eat, look up, make the most of being the remains of a star.
Ooh, thank you so much, Bob Hicok.
Sure.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Thanks so
Thank
much
you.
for joining us today. I have no more questions because it's past the time I told you you'd have to be here. But so so first of all, John Lawson says, "I'm so glad to find a reticent poet for a change. I was beginning to think the species had gone extinct." And Eric Campbell says, "Could you perchance tell Bob that Insomnia Diary is, in his opinion, one of the best poetry collections of the last 25 years? And thank you very much." So I agree with both of those comments, so I thought I'd pass them along.
Thank you very much.
And thanks so much for your time, Bob. And I hope you be
Sure.
a guest on the show again. Thanks for staying late at the office to hang out with us. I appreciate it.
Oh, I was happy to. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks, John. I'll see you soon, Bob. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye. So that was Bob Hicok with a beautiful reading. Oops. I just love Bob so much. Let's see. Read the comments here. Yeah, unrivers was a good word. Yeah, I agree, David. It really unrivers. Beautiful, beautiful word. So that was Bob Hicok reading from his forthcoming, doubly forthcoming collection, Red Rover, which will not be out for 2 years. I don't think it has a publisher yet. Usually his books come out from Bit Press or from Copper Canyon. His most recent book, let me throw this on the screen. His most recent book from Copper Canyon Press is Hold, and that great cover. And he was also interviewed in Rattle number 29. If you want to learn more about Bob Hicok, his thoughts on poetry and life, check out issue number 29 of Rattle. It's still on sale. It's $7, including shipping. And there's a lot of glare on the screen, but it's Marvin Bell is the other interview. So in a tribute to visual poetry. So pick up a copy of that if you would like. In the meantime, let's go to the open mic. If you'd like to, let me put up this. Get Bob out of there. Yeah, so if you'd like to call in, I still haven't had anybody try calling in on a regular landline. But if you'd like to call in and chat or read a poem, especially a poem that's online so I can put the text on screen, just give me a call at 818-850-7727. If the timing happens to be perfect and we're like in the middle of where I'm just rambling, I'll answer. If not, I'll just call you back in a few minutes when we're done with the poem we're reading at the moment. In the meantime, Joy Coulter wanted to call in over Skype. Joy's been on before. And let me give her a ring. Just hang on 1 second. I'm going to put everything on mute so you don't have to hear the terrible ringing sound. But I'm going to give Joy a call. I think so. The Skype is ringing right now, but you can't hear it, thankfully, because it's the worst ringtone on the planet. And Joy Coulter is on the line. Hang on 1 second, Joy. Let me pull you in. I have your audio, but don't have your video yet. Wait a minute. What's going on here? Guest. Let's see. Well, yeah, I can't see you, but we can hear you. So why don't you just let us know what poem you're reading, and we'll enjoy the poem.
Okay. Well, since Thanksgiving is right around the corner, I thought I might do something sort of in honor of Thanksgiving. With deepest respect to Alexandra Petrie of the Washington Post, who wrote the article, Waging a Noble War Against Christmas Creep. And with deepest apologies to Clement Clark Moore, who arguably penned the poem A Visit from St. Nicholas. Ladies and gentlemen, the name of my poem is The Coming of the Christmas Creep.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Joy. Let's hear it.
'Twas the 10th of November, and all throughout town were the typical fall hues of orange and brown. The neighborhood doors carried hay-bundled sheaves or wreaths covered in autumn flowers and leaves. School windows were speckled with posters and pictures of corn, harvest horns, and more Thanksgiving fixtures. The local fall festival would be here soon with rides and games for children that afternoon. The grocery store downtown had hoisted a sign saying Thanksgiving sale, turkeys $10.99. The city and citizens in their own way prepared for the coming of Thanksgiving Day. When subtly sudden, though I don't know when or just where it started or how it began, but at some point that day or while we were asleep, he snuck his way in town, the great Christmas creep. He's quite nondescript, neither dashing nor cute, just a schlub in a tinsel-down, jingle-belled suit. But to get in eyesight or earshot of that man makes one think it's Christmas for which I must plan. Somehow he released in the town's atmosphere that November means Christmas is pretty much here, and slowly but surely our focus saw shifts from turkeys and pumpkins to fir trees and gifts. Creeps creeping on each city sidewalk and street made us wish for snow and not leaves under our feet. The neighbors in school scrapped depictions of fall. Once the Christmas creep strolled past them, winter was all. Christmas wreaths were hung with icicle lights, and children drew Santas in sleigh-soaring heights. Each storefront on Main Street had put up a tree with the brightest ornaments you ever did see. The local Fall Fest, now a winter bazaar, and that's not the strangest thing I saw by far. Creep crept into TV ads through local stations, pushed end-of-year sales alongside Christmas donations. He touted Black Friday to help stores survive. And so we'd forget Thanksgiving was supposed to arrive. The creep made the church bells ring old Christmas songs. Without even knowing it, I sang along so filled with the spirit of Christmas. Remember, when Creep made this happen, it was not yet December. And right when I thought nothing else could be said, the Creep turned the cityscape white, green, and red. The Christmas Creep's treatment had sent my head reeling. I shook myself free from all this Christmas feeling. It seemed crazy he could get away with this, spinning Thanksgiving as a day no one would miss. I stood up to the Creep, shouted, "This can't be real. Hey, I love Christmas too, but dude, what's the deal?" I reached to grab him and yelled, "Change it all back." But that Creep, he's transparent, which botched my attack. The Creep smiled and told me, "My work here is done, but I'll leave you with one last word before I'm gone. Next year, when I come to make over this scene, I'm going to start sooner, before Halloween."
Well, that was really fun, Joy. Thanks so much for sharing that.
Thank you for having me, sir.
Yeah, my pleasure. Yeah, thanks so much. Call in again soon.
Thank you, sir.
And have a happy Halloween. I mean, not Halloween. See, look what you did to me. Have a happy Thanksgiving. I should.
See, Christmas Creep's working on you already.
Yeah, it really is. Thanks, Joy. Right. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Yeah, so that was Joy Coulter from South Carolina reading, I don't remember what the title was, but it was a Grinchy kind of Thanksgiving poem. Thanks so much, Joy. That was a lot of fun. Let's see. So if you'd like to call in too over Skype, just send me a quick chat message to Rattle Poetry, all one word. It's really easy to do. If you'd like to call in over the phone, all you have to do, and I don't remember the number, so I have to pull it up. The number is 818-850-7727. And I'll answer if I'm in the middle of stuff, and if not, I will call you back later. So David Cook is going to do a poem too. He just sent me a call, but I couldn't answer because I was in the middle of another call. Let's do one more. We have two more pre-recorded open mic poems, and let's keep the Thanksgiving theme going on. And then we'll do this one poem, then we'll get to... We'll call back David Cook. So David, we're going to call you as soon as this poem's over. Don't forget about the 30-second delay, so the poem won't actually be over when we call you. Now this is a poem by Susie Berry from Glasgow, Scotland. And let's see where my little note goes. She lives in Glasgow, Scotland. And that's really all I have on her, but you can find more about Susie Berry at serenesenses.co.uk. And here she is really quick reading The Gobbler. Here it comes.
Hello everybody, it's Susie Berry here, and I just finished writing a little poem about turkeys, so I hope you enjoy it. This one's called The Gobbler. While you're enjoying festivities with mulled wine and green cheese, Suffering indignities, everyday atrocities. She's wondering where her brother's gone. He's asking what he's done wrong. To have his nose cut along with his toes. He'd be a good boy if he got the chance to prance like you at your Christmas do. If he wasn't cooped up, he wouldn't have to want a bust up. If he wasn't served with cranberry and brie, he'd gobble and wobble, fancy and free. Happy as Larry, like you, and like me. So I just wrote that to kind of let people know what the current practices are in Turkey and farming. It's really common knowledge that a lot of these poor birds will have their beaks cut off and their toes cut off. And it's to stop them from fighting when they are cooped up in these really small barns. And every day we can hear about people that will pay for hen fighting. And we'll think, oh, that's disgusting, that's really horrible. But actually, when you go and buy birds, they will have had these atrocities done to them. They have no reason to have their birds' beaks and toes chopped off, but because of the demands that's there, people don't want to educate themselves about what's actually going on in these farms, then that's what's happening.
Hello.
Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to start that yet. So that was Susie Berry from Glasgow, Scotland, reading The Gobbler. And you can find more of her work again at Serene, that's Serene, senses.co.uk. Now let's call up David Cook, who had a couple great questions for Bob earlier. Let's give him a call and see if he answers, and we can get audio and video going for him. So it's ringing in my ear, just waiting for David to pick up. When I call you, make sure to turn off YouTube as soon as Skype rings, because we don't want the echo. There's about a 30-second delay. I don't think it's for any kind of FCC regulations or anything. I think it's just because that's how long it takes to convert the stream into different whatever it's out. Here's David Cook. Let's see. Here he is. Hang on 1 second, David. Let me bring you in, and you can say hello to everybody. David Cook, hello. Thanks again for calling. You called last week. It's great to see you again. Yeah, thanks for the great questions for Bob. Have you been a fan? Have you been a fan of Bob's writing for a while?
Oh yeah. I mean, the poem last time was inspired by Stop Loss.
Oh, that's right.
One of his.
Yeah. I've forgotten about that, but yeah. So what do you have for us tonight?
I was thinking of, I didn't send in any poems for you, so I was thinking of just reading some from kind of a Thanksgiving poem.
Perfect. Yeah, we want some Thanksgiving poems. Where are you calling from again? Is it Canada somewhere? Toronto area? Is that right?
Calling from Portland, Oregon.
Oh, Portland, Oregon. That's right. Okay. Well, thanks for calling again. I appreciate it. And you got a great connection, so it's really nice to have people be able to use Skype and call in.
I am getting a little bit of feedback, so I just want to...
Well, if you have YouTube open, close that. That might be it.
Okay.
Yeah. But I won't talk anymore. I'll just let you read your poem, so don't worry about feedback anyway.
Okay.
Okay.
Stop. Okay, so I just wanted to read one poem here. It's called After I Fixed What Was Needed. In the garage, the nurse smells slice, sharply axle grease and cornered cut dust. All the doors lay on bed sheets enameled. Paint pools on their edges, swollen over hollow cores. Hinge pins fill a bucket. But the underside of the paint feels our finger smudged hickeys. Our spackle of abuses still tattoo the final skin. And it's the air I miss, the horse thick dust the couch coughed up, the rat-furred silt on top of the door jambs, the dry smoke air. Now the walls are soft, white, but the air is hard, sharp, tasting like chewed tinfoil. Every bit of softness in these walls took from my hands, The skin scales off around the thumbs. Every bit of gratitude I ever asked for sits on bare rafters, moved to the garage, where the water heater's insulation peels off like a skinned possum.
Thanks so much, David Cook. Thanks for calling again and sharing another poem. I really appreciate it.
I'm trying to make a habit of this. This is a really wonderful open mic and interview series that you have going on here, and I would be remiss if I did not tune in every Tuesday.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much. I really appreciate it. I'll see you again soon.
Okay, I'll talk
and
to
have
you
a
later.
happy. Wait, in Canada, do you do Thanksgiving on the same week, or is it already? Oh wait, no, you're in Portland. I'm confusing you with somebody else who calls in from the Toronto area frequently. So you're from Portland, so you're doing Thanksgiving. So have a great Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I'm actually driving down to Oakland for Christmas, and I'm driving up to Seattle for Thanksgiving. So it's definitely travel season.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, thanks so much, and I'll talk to you soon. Have a good Thanksgiving. Okay.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving.
Okay. Okay, so let me see. I'm going to try to answer a phone call right now. I'm not sure if this is going to work. Hello, this is Tim Green with Rattle, and you're on the line now. I hear you, and you're on the stream. Who is this calling?
Oh, this is Carla Schwartz calling.
Hi, Carla. Thanks so much for calling in. Do you have a poem for us tonight?
I do, and if you wanted to see it, you could go to my Instagram, CB99 Videos. That's Charlie Brown 99 Videos plural, and it's not the last post, but the post just before that.
Okay, I'm pulling it up now. We'll get it for everybody. So where are you calling from in the meantime? I see CB99 Videos, so here we go. Where are you calling from?
Right.
Oh, say that again, sorry.
I'm calling you from Massachusetts.
Well, great. Well, thanks so much for calling in. This is the first time anybody's called over the phone. I just bought the phone number last week.
Oh.
So
Okay.
I'm so glad that it works. So I'm going to put your phone, let me hopefully, okay, so I have to, let's see, your audio is still there and the poem is here too. So so the poem's on screen. Why don't you read it? It's The Marches. Do I have the right one?
It's a poem called The Marches, yes.
Perfect.
And it just appeared in a journal called Adana.
Perfect. Thanks so much. Well, why don't you read it?
All right. The most standout photo is of you, holding up the cardboard, ferme la bouche, your winter coat bulked on your shoulders, your hair dyed something like half lead, half copper penny. The crowd surrounds you like even more jacket. You, my mother, are the center, you and your poster. So many marches since 68 and now 50 years, but there would be more wars, more marches, tears, disappointment. These days, you would have plenty to protest. You might tweet your heart out. Hashtags would replace your beloved soaps, and you would organize a busload to Washington. These days, we use that jacket out on the boat to keep warm on a cold night. You should feel good, safe, having finally answered your own question. What country should we move to now?
That was awesome. Thanks so much, Carla. And tell me again, that was The Marches by Carla Schwartz. Tell me again where that was published, because I'm kind of distracted. I miss things.
That's all right. That's all right. The journal is called Adana, Adanna.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much thanks so much for calling in and being our first phone call caller. That worked perfectly.
Oh, thank you, and thank you so much for running this Rattlecast, and the show tonight was fantastic.
Yeah, well, thank you. It's my pleasure. It's a lot of fun to do and really easy. This is my my house, and I don't have to go anywhere, and it's really fun. So thanks so much for watching and for calling in and sharing a poem. I appreciate it.
Great. Okay. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye. Good night. So that was Carla Schwartz again with The Marches. Thanks so much. If you want to call in like Carla did, once again, the number is 818-850-7727. And we have to keep the length to under 2 hours for the show. So that's really the only limit. So 7:45 my time is the max, because certain things only let you upload 2 hours. But otherwise, we can just keep going as long as people want to call in. And thanks again to Carla Schwartz for calling in over the phone. Now, let me do another pre-recorded poem. This is going to be Penny Pazer, who you might recognize that name because she has called before. I think probably the same week she sent this poem in. It looks like a sonnet. Again, these open mics, I have no idea what's coming up, which is part of the fun for me. So this is Penny Pazer from Los Angeles, California. She's a writer, actress, and documentary filmmaker. In 2008, winner of the Maria Faust Sonnet Contest. She's been published a bunch of places. You can find more at pennypazer.com, spelled like you see her name on the screen, PennyPeyser.com. She's also at Sonnets Suburbia on Twitter. Here she is reading a poem she sent in a few weeks ago called Overload.
Overload. Don't show me news about the national debt or latest scandals, sexual or other. It's not that I don't care or never fret, but I'm on overload and it's a mother. The hurricanes and fires that took a toll beyond what most can bear and tolerate, and leaders whom we simply can't extol, I'm yearning for the days of Watergate. Why, even Richard Nixon's looking good. For all his faults and foibles, he was smart. He may have had a sense of what he should be doing, and he might have had a heart. When things have gone as low as they can go, thank God I've got a bottle of Merlot.
So that was Penny Pazer from Los Angeles, California, reading her sonnet Overload. Thanks so much for sharing that, Penny. If you would like to do a pre-recorded poem like that, you don't have to worry about being live anywhere. All you have to do is record it like on your phone. Using the voice memo on a smartphone is really convenient. If you haven't tried that before, it's really easy to record a voice memo and upload it or email it to somewhere and send it to me. Just go to rattle.com/rattlecast for the instructions on how to do that. But you can always pre-record and then send the poem too, and we can show it on screen as you read it. And it's a lot of fun, so please do. So no one else is calling in. I'll give you like 1 second if anybody wants to call in. The number again, I have to memorize this number, but it's 818-850-7727. If you'd like to call in, give me a call right now, and you can be the last open mic poet. Otherwise, I'm going to go put my kids to bed. If you haven't liked or shared or anything yet, please do click the like button. No matter where you're listening or watching this, that always is really helpful. If it's on iTunes, give it 4 stars. If it's on YouTube, click the like button. If it's on, click the bell too, and make sure you're subscribed. If it's on Facebook later, make sure you're following Rattle and click the like button and share it with your friends, because that's really the currency of poetry these days. We want to spread people's thoughts about the world through the magic of poetry as much as we can. But I think that's probably all for tonight. Thanks so much for joining us as always. Next week, let me throw up that music really quick. So next week we have Naomi Shihab Nye reading from her new book, The Tiny Journalist. Naomi, if you don't know her, we interviewed her in Rattle number 21, a great issue back in the day. That was the first thing I ever did as editor of Rattle. I proofread her interview before we published it. And Naomi is also currently, I think, the Children's Poet Laureate, which is a project that the Poetry Foundation does. And her newest book is The Tiny Journalist, which is about a child journalist in Palestine, turning her reports from the front lines of that constant crisis into poetry. So tune in next week on Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, and catch Naomi Shihab Nye live. It's going to be a great show. In the meantime, hope you have a great weekend and a great Thanksgiving, and I will see you soon. Good night.